Hi folks, a bit of a different one today. Today we're in the shop and we're looking at a very, very common issue we have with snow blowers or anything that has a rewind starter on it. And that is when you pull on here really hard and you end up with this part in your hand, but not the rope. So your rewind or starter rope is broken. So how can we fix it? Well, it's pretty easy actually. So here's what you need to do. This happens to be a Tecumseh winter engine, a pretty commonly used engine a few years back. So all we have to do is remove these three. These happens to be a 1/4 inch headed screws on this particular one. I'll quickly pull them out of there. These little ones aren't very tight, so you generally don't need to use a ratchet, but you can, of course. There's number 3. And this whole thing is just going to pull off. When we flip around, take a look at the inside. Well, we can see right here, that is the end of our broken rope. So if I grab a pair of needle nose pliers, and we'll just give it a little pull, and it's going to pop right out, and there's our broken rope end. So not very useful to us. So I've already bought some new rope. You can go to your local service center and buy rope in a length. You kind of want to measure the rope that you had in your hand, and they will give you the right length. So all I want to do at this particular point is I want to turn the rewind pulley or the recoil pulley backwards. And you're going to feel it's got some resistance in here. It might make a bit of a clicking sound at first, but it should engage and it should want to turn itself clockwise. So I'm going to turn this thing backwards until, using my thumb as a brake here, I'm holding it back. And I'll keep turning it backwards until it stops. At some point it's going to stop. So we've wound up the spring as much as we can. We don't want to let go of this because it's going to spin like mad. Then all I'm going to do is look where the rope went through, which is the squared off part right here. There's a small hole the rope will go through. I'm going to take one wind off of here. We call it pre-wind. So one pre-wind off of there. And now the flat spot right here is directly across from where the rope comes out. So what I can do at this point to make life easier is I can utilize something like I have a pry bar here, but a screwdriver. I'm going to put it in here. And that's just going to stop that pulley from turning on me and still keeping us lined up, right? Or nearly lined up anyway. Just so I'm not straining my thumb by holding on to that constantly. Then take my rope, and there's the end of my rope. I'll make an interesting knot. So I'll make a circle like this, just a circle. I'm going to push that up. A little bit hard to tell what I'm doing here. Come on, focus. But essentially, I'll show you when I'm done what it looks like. Essentially, it is going to look like that. And that type of knot is like super strong. It's not going to come apart. So once that's tied off, I can burn that little raw end later if I wanted to, lighter or something, just so that is not going to fray anymore. Then I'm going to have like the bitter end on the other end, like just the end that is just the piece of rope. So what I'll do now is take the bitter end. I'm going to push it through that hole in the pulley. Get it lined back up again. Push it through the hole. And sorry, out of camera view, but pushing it through the hole, and you can just see it poke out on the other side of the pulley. I'll grab a pair of needle nose pliers. And I'll grab that rope. I'm going to feed it right through to where the handle comes out. Let's make sure it pulls out. And at some point, maybe you can see it peeking out of there. I'll just grab my needle nose and pull it straight out. I'm going to pull it out as far as I can until the rope is fully pulled in there. Then I'm going to remove the tool I have in there. So now it looks like this, but it's still trying to spin in my hand. So the way we get around that is we take my hand and I make a loop. I'll also show you this one. in a second after it's done. I'll make a loop and another loop so that it kind of looks like that. And this is like a knot that I can easily remove. Then I'm going to let the rewind bring all that rope back in there as much as I can. And my special little knot that I tied, that when I give it a pull on the rest of the rope, that's going to undo my knot for me. Okay? So now all I have to do is, on the bitter end, this end, I'm going to put it through my handle. It pops up here. I'll do the exact same thing where I tied that. Try and show you better this time. So I made a loop and another loop, and I'm going to push the little loop through the other loop and squeeze until we get a knot that looks like that. And I can tell you that, having done a million of these, that knot is never coming off of there unless you want it to. So it's a super secure knot. So all I have to do now is pull my handle back. And if I pull really hard, I can pull that knot into the hole where it needs to go. And up here on the rewind, that special knot, when I pull down on here, it'll just release itself, thereby allowing that to go back together. And now we have a functional rewind again. We bolt it back on the exact same way, our 3 little screws, and we're good to go. Hi guys, I just wanted to pop in and give you a little bit of context here while I'm editing the video. This particular recoil repair, as you notice, only the rope broke. The actual rewind spring was not damaged, and so I was able just to wind it back up and put a new rope in it. But if you're interested in a deeper dive, the problem is with taking a rewind apart that the spring in there can be quite dangerous, and quite often it pops apart. It's got some very sharp edges and it could injure you. So I don't recommend you do that. If you want to buy the whole thing, you can actually buy the whole complete assembly for a somewhat reasonable price, probably on Amazon or maybe some aftermarket supplier. But that's another way to go. Replace the whole thing as a unit, then you're not down at all. But if you're trying to use your snowblower, let's say, and you go to fire it up in the wintertime, your driveway is full of snow, and you end up with the rewind handle in your hand and a broken rope, you can definitely repair it yourself relatively quickly and save yourself some time and maybe some headaches. So if you want a more in-depth video on what's inside, I will certainly make one for you. I have literally done hundreds, maybe thousands, probably thousands actually, over the years. But it's not a huge process. Anyway, I hope you're all well. Take care. Talk soon.